Steven Sotloff was one of the people that ISIS had captured and beheaded. He was an American journalist, and now his family has put out their spokesperson, Barak Barfi, on television, talk about how they were not happy how the administration dealt with the kidnapping and how, of course, it resolved itself, but more importantly, the process. And so Barak Barfi is going to go on CBS and talk about it. Let's listen.
Did you feel like the U.S. government gave the Sotloff family the help that they wanted?
Not at all. We never really believed that the administration was doing anything to help us. We had very, very limited contact with senior officials.
What would you have wanted them to do?
What I wanted to do from the beginning is have a senior point of contact in the White House that answers directly to the president to gather information from the various arms of the government so that they could coordinate better and convey that information. Charlie, when I needed to talk to an FBI agent about a very important matter, I had to wait 45 minutes before he could call me back. And that's not his problem, that's the system's problem.
Now, I couldn't have more sympathy for Steven Sotloff and obviously his family. I think he's an absolute hero. We've talked about it many times, to go in there and to try to get information so that the people of Syria could be helped, because information leads to the right solutions, we hope. Not always, but at least it's great to have reporters trying that. Heroic, right? But I don't know why they felt that they were entitled to get answers from the administration on top national security issues within 45 minutes. Now, look, if I had a family member stuck there, I'd want answers in 15 minutes too. But if somebody didn't get back to me from the administration for 45 minutes, I think I'd understand. I mean, there's a lot of things going on, right? And so it seems like a criticism that is a little astray. And it gets to a fundamental issue here in terms of what the White House and the administration and the government should have done in the Sotloff case. Let's let Barfi explain the second half, and then we'll talk about it.
Now, there are reports that the Foleys were considering raising money. Did the Sotloffs try to do that, to pay a ransom?
Gail, what happened is we had meetings with the administration. The family sat with this National Security Council officials, and basically he bullied and hectored them, and they were scared. He had no business telling
Bullied them how, Barak? What do you mean?
He's a Marine, and he is not a Justice Department lawyer. He's not an official from the Organization of Foreign Asset Control, the Treasury. He shouldn't be telling them what the law is. He's a counterterrorism specialist. That is what he should be talking to them about. And then after they had these meetings, I sat in other meetings with mid-level State Department officials and the FBI, and I basically heard the same thing. I tried to come up with creative solutions how we could get around the law. I said, well, how do you know that the group holding Steve is a terrorist organization? We know, they said. Well, how would you know if we tried to transfer money? The banks wouldn't allow it. They shot us down at every opportunity.
Now, why do you think the government is going to try to help you get around the law? So whether that law makes sense or not is a question that we're going to discuss in a second. But let me give you all the facts, because now Dennis McDonough, who's the White House Chief of Staff, weighed in on this and said, in terms of what was communicated to the families in the midst of many, many meetings over the course of this very difficult circumstance, we obviously made clear what the law is. He went on to say, now, we didn't threaten anybody, but we made clear what the law is. That's our responsibility, to make sure that we explain the law and uphold the law. So what I take away from all of this is, did the government basically discourage the Sotloffs from paying that ransom, including telling them, hey, if you try to pay it through a bank, that's illegal, that the law does not allow you to pay that ransom? Yes, I think that the government did do that. But what were they supposed to do? So if I'm the Sotloff family, and that's my family member, am I considering paying the ransom? Of course I am, right? I mean, what wouldn't you do to try to save a family member? If you're the parents, what wouldn't you do to try to save a child? So I'm not questioning their motives. God bless them. They're in the most difficult position you could possibly imagine. But at the same time, if you're the government, look, if they allowed the Sotloffs to pay the ransom, everybody would have come down on them, negotiating with terrorists, paying ransom to terrorists, funding the terrorists, right? So now people are criticizing, oh my God, you didn't do enough for the Sotloff family. Well, then they can't win either way. What is it that they should do? If I was the government, I would say, yeah, we don't negotiate with terrorists. And that puts you in a horrible spot. And I feel horrible about that. But we don't negotiate with them. So no, we don't want you to pay the ransom. And we can't help you get around the law when we are the law. Because if you're the Sotloff family, your primary concern is your family member, understandably. If you're the government, your primary concern is the next 10 guys they might kidnap if they get the ransom. So now a lot of people out there bashing the administration for this, but I don't really see it. I think that they were in a very hard situation and they tried the best they could. They did not have the success that we all had hoped for. In fact, let me give you two more details here. One more from the family spokesman. He said, we wanted them to coordinate the information. We wanted a 24-hour crisis center where we could call and they could respond to us immediately, just like the Europeans have. So he's saying, look, Europeans do have something like this, we didn't. So if you want to criticize the details of the operation, I get it, right? And I understand. You know, others might say, hey, are you really entitled to a 24-hour crisis center set up just for you? Maybe in an extraordinary circumstance like this, yes. Maybe not. I don't know. That's a very detailed question that you'd really have to get into to see what the priorities of the government were and what they were trying to do. Speaking of which, turns out one of the things they were trying to do was to do a rescue operation from the Hill here. The U.S. did conduct a rescue attempt, but Sotloff and James Foley had been moved before special forces could reach the site. So when you look at it in total, I think that the government did its best, did not succeed, and if you want to criticize them for not succeeding, I understand that. The Sotloff family is mad because they lost a family member and they didn't get to conduct this particular procedure the way they wanted to, and I feel their pain, but ultimately I don't think I agree with them. I think that the government was right to say we don't negotiate with terrorists and we can't help you pay that ransom. We tried to rescue them, it didn't work, but apparently, based on the evidence that we have, we did the best we could. Now we're launching a war in two countries because you lost your family member. It's not like we're not doing anything about it. We're doing a lot about it.